Hi friends, how are you all? So in this session we will be discussing about excess and deficient demand. What is excess and what is deficient demand? First of all, before we go into this topic, we have to take a recap of the Keynesian system. Okay, the Keynesian system. According to this system, we studied that aggregate demand will be equal to C plus I. Okay, AD will be equal to C plus I and AS will be equal to C plus S will be equal to income, right? And the graph will come like this. Y. And here Y income, output, employment, AD or AS. AS will be a 45-degree line originating from the origin. AD, however, will originate from a point above origin, from a point on the y-axis. Okay, and the equilibrium level of income will be obtained at the point where AD meets AS. This will be the equilibrium level of income, output and employment. Okay, we say that according to the country's potential, this point, let's take as the full employment equilibrium. Okay, when all the resources are put to optimal use and there is no wastage, then we will attain full employment equilibrium in the economy. But, however, if AD is meeting AS at a point here, okay, AD is meeting AS at a point here. This point is the income, output and employment are higher at the current given the new equilibrium than full employment equilibrium. Do you think we can attain over full employment equilibrium? See, if I am one person, I am Vijay and I am teaching you, right? Can I teach more than, means for the same time can I teach for 10 students? Means 10 classes, 10 topics. Today I am taking excess and deficient demand. At the same time, can I take some other subject like say account or let's say any other subject? Can I teach many subjects at the same time, same moment? No. My capacity, even if I am put to full employment, I can teach only one portion at a time, right? So, there is no way we can attain this point. Then why does AD meet AS at a higher point? The only reason is inflationary gap. So let's take this point as D1. Let's take D. The difference between this initial equilibrium E and the new D. And what is this D? It is the level of demand at the full employment level of income. So, this difference will be called inflationary gap. And let's say that AD is meeting AS somewhere below full employment equilibrium. Okay, at this point, here also there will be one CF level of aggregate demand at the full employment level of income. Means let's take G. This gap, or let's take this as H. The demand at the full employment level of equilibrium is by far lesser than the aggregate demand that should be in order to attain equilibrium. So this gap, EH, is called deflationary gap. Deflation happens because aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply, which is required. Means aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply. We can tell that aggregate demand is less than the demand that is required in order to attain full employment level of equilibrium. Right. So this is what is inflationary and deflationary gap. This is basically the thing according to Keynesian system. What can we do to improve inflationary and to correct inflationary gap and deflationary gap or inflation? When there is inflationary gap, the situation is called excess demand because demand is higher than what is required. When there is deflationary gap, the situation is called deficient demand. Okay, that's all about excess and deficient demand introduction. Now, how to correct this? See, in the last lecture on inflation, we have studied basically the thing what we need to do with excess demand. However, let's take the measures, policy measures. Okay, let's take everything together because we have already learned the system or the situation of inflation earlier. Okay, so I don't think it will be a big of a thing for you. Okay, now here excess demand, deficient demand. Or we'll make it 3 columns so you can understand better. One, measure excess demand, deficient demand. Okay, first of all, in the last lecture I have told you there are 2 forms of measures. One is the fiscal measure which can be taken by the government of any country, or it can be monetary measures which can be taken by the monetary authority of the country. First of all, let's study fiscal measures. Okay, in fiscal measures, first is the revenue policy. Basically, it is related to taxation. See, I tell you one thing. In inflation, I have told you that in demand pull inflation, the basic cause is the increase or higher purchasing power in the hands of people, right? The people have more purchasing power than they are deserving, in fact. So, the purchasing power or the money needs to be brought down. Okay. That is, if the government can bring down circulation or the disposable income in the hands of the people, then the government will be able to control excess or excess demand. However, in deficient demand, the purchasing power of the people is below what is required. So, the government should take measures in order to increase money in the hands of the people, increase their disposable income. Okay. So, revenue or tax. If the government imposes higher tax, people will have to pay more and their purchasing power will come down. So, in case of excess demand, the government should increase taxation or increase government revenue. In deficient demand, government should reduce because if the taxation is reduced, people will have to pay lesser amount and therefore their purchasing power will go up. If the person who earns rupees 100, earlier he was paying rupees 10 as tax, that is 10%. Now, if the government reduces the tax to 5%, then the person will pay only rupees 5. And so, he will have 95 rupees to spend. Earlier he had only 90. With this additional 5 rupees, he can demand 5 more rupees of goods. Or according to the MPC. If MPC is 0.8, he will demand 4 rupees addition of goods. Okay. This is about revenue policy. Then there is expenditure policy. I have already told you in inflation, when public expenditure goes up, when construction of roads or something by the government goes up, then the government will make payment in order to accomplish the public expenditure. Therefore, if public expenditure is raised, people will have more money. To say what, in case of inflation or excess demand, government should reduce public expenditure. However, in case of deflationary gap or deficient demand, government should increase public expenditure. Okay, because only public expenditure is increased, government can increase the demand and restore full employment equilibrium. Then there is deficit financing. In deficit financing means what? The government is incurring budgetary deficit, and in order to cover that, they are printing more notes. If more currency is printed, more currency will go to the public. Therefore, higher deficit financing means higher purchasing power. So, in case of excess demand, government should reduce deficit financing. In case of deficient demand, government should increase or raise deficit financing. Okay, these are the two things about fiscal measures. Now let us go to monetary measures. Monetary measures are taken by the monetary authority. In case of India, it is taken by the Reserve Bank of India. Here, there are two kinds of measures. First is the quantitative measures. In quantitative measures, what will happen is, throughout the economy, the central bank or the monetary authority will bring changes. Throughout, the policy will affect the entire economy. Whoever is living in the country will be affected by this measure. The first one among them is the bank rate. Bank rate is the rate at which the central bank lends loan to the commercial banks or financial institutions. What will happen? If the rate is increased, okay, the bank will think, earlier I needed to pay lesser interest, now I have to pay more interest for the same amount of loan. So naturally they will borrow less. So if bank rate is increased, the credit lending capacity of the banks can be brought down because they will borrow less. Then what will happen? The banks in turn will increase the rates and they will lend lesser and lesser amounts to the people. This in turn will reduce the purchasing power of the people. So in case of excess demand, it should be raised or increased. In case of deficient demand, it should be reduced because cheaper loan should be available to the people so as to increase demand. Okay, this is about bank rate. Then CRR and SLR or variable reserve ratios. The cash reserve ratio is the amount of deposits which the banks are mandated to keep with the RBI or the central bank or the monetary authority. Statutory liquidity ratio is the ratio of their net live deposits the banks have to keep with themselves as in the form of assets like gold or something, okay, or monetary government securities. So if this rate is increased, the banks will have to keep more money with them or more money with the central bank. So the net amount which they can lend to the public will fall. Therefore, in case of excess demand, this should be increased so as to reduce the purchasing power. In case of deficient demand, this should be reduced so that the banks or the institution are persuaded or they have the initiative to lend more to the public, and therefore the demand will go up. Then CRR, SLR are over. Then open market operation. See, open market operation means the government, the monetary authority will have some liquid government securities, and the banks will also have some securities. They can make exchange in the market, right? What they will do in case of excess demand, the monetary authority wants to extract money from the public, or it wants to extract money from the commercial banks and financial institutions. Therefore, they will sell securities to the outer economy. They will sell securities to the commercial banks or financial institutions or public. Then what will happen? By the commercial bank, they will have to give money, no. So their capacity to lend will go down. So in case of excess demand, the RBI will sell securities. However, in case of deficient demand, RBI will, the commercial and central bank will buy securities. So it will give money to the economy or the commercial bank or the public. They in turn can use this and they can demand more. So in case of deficient demand, the central bank will buy securities. Okay, then the fourth one is repo mechanism. Repo or reverse repo. See, there is a thing called repo mechanism. I haven't told you in this lecture of inflation. I have kept to this. In this mechanism, what will happen is, it is similar to open market operation. However, it is the sale and repurchase option. That is, repo means repurchase option. Take, there is a bank A and the central bank. Bank A and central bank. Okay. And there is excess demand in the economy. Or let's take, don't take excess demand, just let us just first acquainted with this concept. See, both of them have government securities. Okay, the bank A can use this for the purpose of SLR. The central bank generally it has some reserves of securities. Okay, what will happen is, if the bank A needs money, if the bank A is in need of money, what the bank A will do is, bank A will sell some securities, say worth rupees 100 to the central bank. Now, today the bank A will sell, say May 31st, the bank A will sell money to the central bank. Okay, May 31st or June 1, it will be completed. When the money is, when the bank sells, the central bank will naturally give money to the commercial bank, right? Bank A will get money, so it can use this money for its own purposes of lending or something. However, bank A they will reach a contract such that bank A will repurchase the security after some days, after a fixed period, like 3 months or something it may be agreed between, it will mostly be decided by the central bank. After this period, the bank will repurchase the same security at a higher price. But that price will be fixed today. Okay, that is, if the undertaking is to buy at rupees 105 after say 3 months, the rate, the difference is the interest that accrues to the central bank, right? When the bank is repurchasing, it will give money to the central bank, right? This difference, so A will pay rupees 105 after 3 months. This difference of rupees 5 is the interest that accrues to the central bank. Therefore, this interest, this percent of interest, if say it is 3 months, the interest will be 20%, right? Because for 3 months, the 5% interest. So for 1 year, it will be 20% per annum. This rate is called the repo rate, the repurchasing rate, the difference between the price that will be paid after a period and the price that is at which the transaction takes now. That's the repo rate. Okay, this rate can be varied according to the situation. If there is excess demand, okay, the rate should be increased. Say now bank A is selling for rupees 100 and undertakes to buy for rupees 105. The central bank raises the rate and the bank A will have to pay rupees 10 as interest, means at the future date it will be able to repurchase only for rupees 110. Then bank A will have a disincentive to go ahead with the transaction, right? So banks will naturally reduce the repo transactions. This will help to control excess demand. In case of deficient demand, it should naturally be reduced. The repo rate should be reduced so that cheaper credit will be available to the commercial banks as well as the public. These are the quantitative measures. Now, qualitative measures. The first one is margin. Margin requirement. Okay. See, whenever you are going to take a loan, you will be given some security. Okay. Why is the security given? If ever you fail, if I am going to take a loan, I will give a security with that is an assurance to the lender. If ever I fail to repay my money at the due date, the seller can sell the security which I have given and obtain money. So naturally, sellers will want a security that is valued higher than the price of the loan. If I want to take a loan of rupees 1 lakh, the seller will mostly demand a security of value 1.2 lakhs minimum, because only then they will be having a lesser risk of recurring this rupees 1 lakh at a future date. If the price of the security goes down, even then they should be able to get at least 95,000, right? So this margin requirement, that difference, if I have to give a security of rupees 1.2 lakh in order to take a loan of rupees 1 lakh, that difference between the value of security and the value of loan is called the margin. Okay, this margin can be varied. If the margin is increased, there will be a disincentive to take loan, right? If I was giving 1.2 lakh as security for a loan of rupees 1 lakh, now if I have to give 1.3 lakh, my God, I have to give a higher security to take same loan. So I will naturally bring my loan amount down. Okay, which is the best option. So margin requirements will be increased in order to curtail excess demand. Naturally, they should be reduced. It will be opposite in deficient demand. They should be reduced in case of deficient demand. Then the second measure is moral suasion. Okay, the central bank or the monetary authority will persuade the banks to lend more or lend less. Means they will not tell you should do, but they will persuade. See, the situation is like this. We are in a position, we have the responsibility to curtail the situation. You take whatever measures you want, but keep in mind, since now is excess demand, we will have to take measures to reduce demand. So, if you have to reduce demand, you will have to lend less money. This persuading procedure is called moral suasion. Here, they will persuade to reduce credit. Okay, Here the moral suasion will to increase credit. Okay. Here the persuasion will be to reduce credit, and here the persuasion will be to increase credit. Then the third measure is selective credit control. This measure, it is not like opposite for things. The credit will be given to selective sectors. Okay, the selective sectors credit will be given. This is selective credit control. One of the methods used in selective credit control is margin requirements. Okay, let's say there is a situation of inflation or excess demand in the country, but agriculture sector is in a state of difficulty. So what the central bank will do is, central bank will increase the margin requirement for all sectors except agriculture. For agriculture, it will give a lower margin requirement. So agriculture loans will increase and other loans will fall. Therefore, agriculture will improve, excess demand will come down. So this is about selective credit control. Okay. So today we saw about the Keynesian system and what is excess and deficient demand. Now we have seen the fiscal and monetary measures, the quantitative and the qualitative measures in order to contain excess and deficient demand. Both of these situations, excess as well as deficient demand, are not good. Unless and until we are in a balanced equilibrium state, everything is not good. So these phenomena should be controlled at the earliest, and these are the measures which can be used for the same. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture. We will meet in the next session. So till then, stay safe. Thank you.